Hello, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed a very Merry Christmas. As Hanukkah starts, Happy Hanukkah to all of you. Happy Kwanzaa, however you celebrate the holidays. I hope it has been a joyous time for you. I thought I would take an opportunity here to share a few of the types of things that were traditional for us when we were filming The Waltons. If you're enjoying these segments, please do hit like and subscribe. As a cast, we would have a little bit of time off right at Christmas, but not too much because we filmed all the way through until about the end of February or something like that, end of January, when we took 3 months off. So we still had episodes to get wrapped up. We weren't shooting Christmas stuff at that time because we had shot that back in the summer or the early fall, so it would be ready to air at Christmas time. So we were now shooting things that were going to be on in the spring. And so everything was a little off on the timelines behind the scenes as well. But we did always have a cast and crew Christmas party. And typically that was one of the sound stages, usually the other sound stage that we'd use for some of the sets that we use sometimes, or if we needed a special set for an episode, because on our regular soundstage, we had the interior of the Walton house, the interior of God's store, the interior of the Baldwin sisters' sort of entry hall and their sort of parlor room. And then later on in later seasons, we also had some of the interior of the shed when Ben and Cindy lived there. So another soundstage would get used if we were doing additional. Oh, we also had all the bedrooms on our stage, like John Boy's room, Mom and Daddy's room, which doubled as the girls' bedroom, the boys' bedroom, the attic, those things. So if we needed some other sort of a set, then we would have to use a different soundstage. So that was usually the soundstage where we would have our Christmas party, and it would be decorated up, and food. It would be there good food and a certain amount of beverages. We were all kids, so what sort of beverages beyond us being kids and what we were drinking, I don't remember what was available for the grown-ups, but it just fun time and music and the thing that. And sometimes we some of the kids sometimes put on a little show. We'd put together some sort of a presentation or play or skit or whatever. We'd do something to share with the crew. And then one of the highlights was always the blooper reel. We have talked about these blooper reels that they were edited on film. And they were not distributed to anyone. So I never had copies of them, but so much of it was inside stuff that was funny to us, but might not be funny to anybody outside. Kind of like when you fumble all over your words. It might be funny in the time and breaks the tension, but some of the stuff doesn't translate well. But I made notes of a few things that I remember from these blooper reels. There were always the real mistakes that were just maybe humorous in the moment, but were not planned mistakes, where somebody fumbled over lines or maybe missed an entrance or a door didn't work or something, the car didn't stop or the car wouldn't start and wouldn't move. So those types of things that might be funny in the moment and could be funny even if you were watching it. I think a lot of you would laugh at these reels. And then there was the stuff that was sort of off color. So some of you may or may not have appreciated some of that, particularly if you have certain ideas about what the Waltons were like. We were not quite as homespun sometimes as the Waltons, or as clean-mouthed, or not so much for the children, but some of the adults and stuff. So there were things that were certainly a little on the blue side, like we've talked about Richard and Will mooning when they were in the hot springs, getting up and dropping their pants. And there happened to be a tour group that had just come in to watch the filming. So the tour group got mooned by Richard and Will. So that was that was a moment. If anybody was there live when that happened, please let me know. I'd be fascinated to hear that. When John Ritter was on the show, there was any number of sort of planned bloopers that the two of them, where they'd be trying to crack each other up or just pulling pranks intentionally. One of the things they like to do is they get a latex sponge like that would be used to put on makeup, and they'd put it in their mouth and they'd build up a lot of saliva and kind of chew on it, and it would start foaming. So then they'd look like they were foaming at the mouth. And so they do things like that. So there were any number of little pranks that were pulled by Richard and John Ritter. There was the time when, as a prank on Richard, we were in the kitchen set, and cast crew, everybody like put them up like with an eyebrow pencil or something, drew like a mole on their face, and they were different places, different sides, whatever. And Richard was called into the set, and he kind of came in, and then he kind of started and did this like double, triple take, and we all had a laugh out of that, as did he. He had a really good sense of humor and took that in the spirit it was intended. The noises and things like that often were an opportunity to sort of break out of the scene. I remember one where Richard and Ralph were, I think they might have been going to the Pendleton house when Jenny's family was there, and John Boy had said he thought there was maybe somebody there or whatever, and something like that. And the two of them were having a conversation and heading that way. He says, and Ralph was saying something like, and then we could, and this plane went over, and so he said, or we could catch this jet, and again, it doesn't sound very funny right now, but in that moment and watching it, because we dealt with so many airplanes and so many scenes that were cut, airplane, that it was something that we all appreciated because of how much we had to deal with that. When I spoke with Bruce Davison, he talked about when he was filming The Shivery, and he was blindfolded and tied up and wandering through the woods, and then he was supposed to do this face plant, and that he did one of the takes and then realized he had his slippers on and he wasn't supposed to, and he swore, and anyway, it broke everybody up. So that was an unintentional blooper that also made one of our gag reels. In the spirit of fun, I thought perhaps you might enjoy seeing a little bit of, when I am filming these YouTube segments, I fumble around over lines and stuff, or I have people going by in the background and stuff like that. So I thought I would have my editor put together a little bit of a fast edit of some of my moments here, fumbling lines and having to stop because of dog walkers and bikes and all kinds of different things. And you have seen Lawnmower Man before, but he might be back, I'm not sure. So I hope you enjoyed it. This is kind of like a blooper. See this guy? He keeps going back and forth about the troubles in life and how they can bring out the best in people. If you have drive, transportation might pick the character who near Paradise Cove, kind of on the opposite side. Or if it was indeed two different cars, it very likely was two different cars, but again, I don't know why. Oh, we have people walking in the background. Ben has no success, and then Daddy goes back with him and talks with Nancy's father. Oops. In this country and around the world. So, where he rekindled a romance with Ann Nelson. No, that's not right. It's Ann Harris. Judy, I was wondering, you often stay. Help! The Waltons have taken in a young orphan boy from the boys' home where Hobie, from the episode The Braggart, had been a boy when he attended that blah, blah, blah. He confesses at some point to John Boy that it's difficult for him, or I guess to Olivia, that he has a difficult time. I don't know who he confesses to. Kidnap him. Kidnap him. Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to be talking about the episode. What episode am I talking about? Oh, shoot. Thank you very much for joining me for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Please enjoy the rest of the holiday season, and I will be back with more segments very soon. Thanks for watching.